Burnout. It's a term we hear a lot these days, but there's still so much misunderstanding surrounding it. In this video, we'll debunk 8 common myths about what causes burnout and reveal the truths behind this complex phenomenon. By the end, you'll have a clearer understanding of what burnout really is and what factors contribute to it. Let's dive in. Myth number 1. Burnout is just being tired. You might think burnout is simply being tired, and it's easy to see why. We all have days when we're dragging ourselves through tasks feeling drained. Think about it. How often have you heard someone say, just power through it, or everyone's tired, this is life? These attitudes show how we tend to downplay burnout, treating it like it's nothing a good night's sleep can't fix. It's easy to see why people might think burnout is just about being tired. Burnout and tiredness share some common symptoms, like feeling physically and mentally exhausted. We've all had those days where we're just dragging through it, right? And culturally, we tend to downplay burnout, treating it like it's just another form of fatigue that a good night's sleep can fix. But here's the truth. Burnout is much more than just being tired. Burnout is a state of chronic physical and emotional exhaustion. It's not just a one-off feeling you can shake off with some rest. People experiencing burnout often feel cynical, detached from their work, and struggle with a sense of ineffectiveness or lack of accomplishment. Overcoming burnout typically requires significant lifestyle changes and may benefit from professional mental health support. Take the story of Sarah, a freelance graphic designer who experienced severe burnout. She described it as a deep, pervasive exhaustion that affected her motivation, creativity, and overall mental health. Sarah's story really shows that burnout is serious and goes far beyond just feeling tired. If you're feeling more than just tired, if you're feeling disconnected, unmotivated, or like you're not achieving anything, it might be time to consider that you're experiencing burnout. Acknowledging the problem is the first steps towards finding a solution. Take a close look at your lifestyle, work habits, and overall well-being. Consider making changes to your routine, setting boundaries, and seeking support from friends, family, or professionals if needed. Remember, burnout is real, and it's essential to address it properly. If you've experienced burnout or have tips for managing it, share your story in the comments. Let's support each other as we navigate the challenges of modern life. Now, if burnout isn't just about being tired, you might be thinking, okay, I'll just take a vacation and everything will be fine, right? Well, not quite. In the next section, we'll debunk the myth that taking a vacation is the ultimate cure for burnout. Stay tuned. Myth number 2, taking a vacation will fix burnout. You might think that taking a well-deserved vacation is the ultimate solution to burnout. Just imagine it. Sipping cocktails by the beach, exploring new cities, or simply catching up on some much-needed rest. It's easy to believe that a break from work will magically erase all the stress and exhaustion you've been feeling. Why this may seem true is because it's tempting to think that a good vacation can solve all our stress. After all, taking time off can provide immediate relief from a stressful situation. The goal of taking a vacation is so that we can come back feeling rejuvenated and ready to tackle our tasks after the break. However, while a break can provide temporary relief, it doesn't address the underlying issues causing burnout. These might include workload management, poor work culture, or personal boundaries. Burnout requires a more comprehensive approach, including lifestyle changes and sometimes mental health support. Consider the example of Mark, a high-powered executive who took a 2-week luxury vacation to escape his burnout. While he enjoyed the time off, he quickly found himself back in the same stressful situation upon returning to work. The vacation provided a temporary respite, but it didn't address the root causes of his burnout. While taking breaks is crucial, it's important to recognize that vacations alone are not a long-term solution to burnout. To truly overcome burnout, it's essential to develop sustainable work habits and maintain a healthy work-life balance. This might involve setting boundaries, delegating tasks, or even making career changes if necessary. Remember, burnout is often the result of chronic stress, and while a vacation can help alleviate some of that stress, it's not a cure-all. If you find yourself constantly relying on vacations to cope with burnout, it might be time to reassess your work situation and make some fundamental changes. So next time you're starting to feel burned out, by all means, take that well-deserved vacation. But don't forget to address the underlying issues that led to your burnout in the first place. Only then can you truly break free of the cycle of exhaustion caused by stress. Speaking of stress, have you ever heard someone say that burnout and stress are the same thing? It's a common misconception, but the truth is they're quite different. In the next section, we'll dive into myth number 3 and explore the crucial distinctions between burnout and stress. Get ready to have your mind blown. Myth number 3, burnout and stress are the same thing. You've probably heard people use the terms burnout and stress interchangeably, as if they're just different words for the same experience. It's a common misconception that burnout is simply a more intense version of stress, but the reality is quite different. Why this may seem true is because burnout and stress do share some similarities. Both can leave you feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, and struggling to cope with the demands of daily life. It's easy to see why people might assume they're one and the same. However, while stress is a natural response to challenging situations, burnout is a more severe condition that develops over time. Stress can actually be beneficial in small doses, providing the motivation and energy needed to tackle tough projects or meet tight deadlines. Burnout, on the other hand, is a state of chronic exhaustion and detachment that leaves you feeling hopeless and unable to function effectively. Think of it like this: stress is like a sprint, while burnout is like running a marathon without proper training or support. You might be able to power through short periods of stress, but if you're constantly pushing yourself without rest or recovery, you'll eventually hit a wall and find yourself in the throes of burnout. To avoid confusing stress with burnout, it's important to recognize the signs and symptoms of each. If you're feeling stressed, take steps to manage your workload, prioritize self-care, and seek support when needed. If you suspect you're experiencing burnout, it's crucial to address the underlying issues and make significant changes to your lifestyle and work situation. Remember, while stress is a natural part of life, burnout is a serious condition that can often require professional attention. If you're feeling overwhelmed and unable to cope, don't hesitate to reach out for help. Your mental health and well-being are worth prioritizing. So next time someone suggests that burnout is just another word for stress, you'll know better. By understanding the key differences between these two experiences, you can take steps to protect yourself from the damaging effects of burnout and maintain a healthy, balanced life. Now that we've cleared up the confusion around burnout and stress, let's tackle another pervasive myth: the idea that burnout only affects overachievers. Trust me, this one will surprise you. Myth number 4, burnout only happens to those who work too much. You've probably heard the stories: the dedicated employee who works 60-hour weeks, the entrepreneur who never takes a day off, the student who pulls all-nighters to study. It's easy to assume that burnout is the inevitable consequence of working too hard, but the truth is more complex than that. It makes sense why people might believe this. We often hear stories of people burning out after working long hours or taking on too many projects. The idea that burnout is directly tied to the amount of work we do is a common assumption. But here's the reality: burnout isn't just about the quantity of work. It's also about the quality of your work environment and personal resilience. Burnout can occur due to a lack of control, unclear job expectations, dysfunctional workplace dynamics, and lack of social support. It's not just about how many hours you put in, but also how those hours are managed and how supported you feel during them. Consider the example of Naomi Osaka, the tennis star who withdrew from the French Open citing mental health reasons. Despite being at the top of her game and having the flexibility to manage her own schedule, she recognized the need to prioritize her well-being. Her experience shows that burnout can stem from constant pressure and scrutiny, not just from working long hours. To prevent burnout, it's important to focus on creating a healthy work environment and developing personal resilience. This might involve setting clear boundaries, communicating your needs, and seeking support when needed. It's also crucial to prioritize self-care activities like exercise, mindfulness, and time with loved ones. Remember, burnout isn't just a problem for workaholics. It's about how we manage our work and the environment we work in. By recognizing the complex factors that contribute to burnout, we can take steps to protect ourselves and maintain a healthy, sustainable relationship with our work. Now, this one probably hit pretty hard, especially if you're someone who pours their heart and soul into their work. But don't worry, we're not done busting myths just yet. In fact, the next one is a doozy. The idea that burnout is inevitable if you're passionate about your work. Hold on to your seats, because we're about to challenge that notion head on. Myth number 5, burnout is inevitable if you're passionate about your work. You've probably heard the saying, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. It's a nice sentiment, but it can also lead to the belief that if you're truly passionate about your work, burnout is just part of the deal. But is that really true? When you're passionate about something, it's easy to pour all your time and energy into it. This can lead to overworking and eventually burnout. The narrative that passion inevitably leads to burnout is quite common. But here's the truth: passion doesn't have to lead to burnout. In fact, proper self-care, Setting boundaries and managing workload can help maintain passion without leading to burnout. Passion at work doesn't have to mean overworking yourself to the point of exhaustion. Take the example of Mary Forleo, a successful entrepreneur and author who often speaks about balancing passion with self-care to avoid burnout. Despite her busy schedule as a content creator and entrepreneur, she emphasizes the importance of taking care of herself to sustain her passion. If you're passionate about your work, remember that it's crucial to balance that passion with self-care and boundaries. Make time for activities that recharge you. Set clear limits on your work hours, and don't be afraid to say no when necessary. So let's talk in the comments. How do you balance passion and self-care in your work? Share your tips and experiences so we can share the passion. But passion isn't the only factor that people associate with burnout. In fact, there's a common misconception that only certain types of jobs lead to burnout. Let's debunk this myth next. Myth number 6. Only people in high-stress jobs get burnout. When you think about burnout, what kind of jobs come to mind? Doctors pulling 24-hour shifts, lawyers burning the midnight oil, CEOs juggling global empires. It's easy to assume that only people in these high-pressure roles can experience burnout, but the reality is quite different and might surprise you. We often associate burnout with high-stress professions that involve do-or-die, life-or-death situations, massive financial stakes, or intense public scrutiny. Media portrayals and anecdotes about burnout frequently focus on these high-profile careers, reinforcing the idea that burnout is reserved for the upper echelons of the professional world. But the truth is, burnout can affect anyone, regardless of their job's perceived stress level. Even jobs considered low stress can lead to burnout if they involve monotony, lack of recognition, or poor management. Consider the example of social media influencers, who often have careers that seem fun and low stress from the outside. However, many influencers have spoken about experiencing burnout due to the constant pressure to produce content and maintain engagement. Remember, burnout doesn't discriminate. It can happen to anyone, anywhere, anytime. If you're feeling burnt out, don't dismiss your experiences just because your job isn't typically considered high stress. Reach out for support and make changes to prioritize your well-being. So if burnout can affect anyone, regardless of their job, you might be wondering, is it just an inevitable part of life? Something we have to just grit our teeth and bear it and endure it until it passes? Hold on to whatever you're sitting on, because we're about to tackle the last 2 myths, and they're absolute game changers. These final misconceptions are not only the most widespread, but they're also the ones that can have the most damaging impact on how we handle burnout. In fact, debunking these last 2 myths could completely transform your understanding of burnout and how to deal with it. They are so crucial that missing them would be like solving a puzzle with the 2 most important pieces missing. So lean in close and pay extra attention as we unravel these final 2 myths. Trust me, what you're about to learn could make all the difference in your approach to burnout. Myth number 7. Burnout is just a phase and will go away on its own. We've all had rough patches at work. Times when we feel overwhelmed, exhausted, and maybe even a little bit hopeless. But when does a rough patch turn into something more serious, like burnout? And can we really just wait for it to pass? This may seem true, because burnout can sometimes seem just like a rough patch that will eventually pass. We might think we just need to tough it out, and things will just get better on their own. But here's the thing. Without proper intervention, burnout can worsen over time. It's a serious condition that needs to be addressed through lifestyle changes, support, and sometimes professional help. Take the story of Arianna Huffington, the co-founder of the Huffington Post, who has been very vocal about her experience with severe burnout. She emphasizes the need for proactive measures and support to recover, noting that she had to make significant changes to her work routine and seek help to start feeling better. If you're feeling burnt out, don't wait for it to pass. Take action and seek support. Talk to your supervisor about adjusting your workload. Reach out to friends or family for help. And consider, of course, seeking professional advice if needed. Remember, burnout is a serious condition, not just a passing phase. Proactive steps are key to recovery. If burnout isn't just a phase that passes on its own, you might be wondering about the best way to deal with it. Some people think the answer is simple. Just quit your job. But is that really the best solution? Myth number 8. Burnout means you need to quit your job. When burnout strikes, it's tempting to think the only solution is a drastic one, quitting your job. If your work is making you miserable, walking away might seem like the best option. But is it always the right answer? When we're burnt out, it often feels like the only solution is to make a drastic change, like quitting our job. The idea of escaping the source of our stress seems like the best way to recover. But Here's the thing. Quitting isn't always the answer. Burnout often stems from how the work is being done rather than the work itself. Adjusting your workload, setting better boundaries, improving work conditions, and seeking support can mitigate burnout without necessitating quitting. Consider the example of a high-level executive who spoke out about how he adjusted his approach to work and set better boundaries rather than quitting his career. He found ways to manage his workload more effectively and improve his work-life balance. If you're feeling burnt out, look at making changes before deciding to quit. Talk to your supervisor about your workload and expectations. Set clear boundaries around your work hours and prioritize self-care. These changes might just make all the difference. Of course, sometimes quitting is the right course, but it's not the only option. Don't make a rash decision in the midst of a burnout. Explore your options first. Now that we've debunked this final myth, you might be wondering what's next. How do I take all this information and put it into action? Well, you're in luck because we're not done yet. Let's wrap up real quick with what we learned and get you prepared for even more myth-busting insights. Remember, burnout is a complex phenomenon that cannot be attributed to a single factor. Burnout is more than just being tired. It can affect anyone, regardless of job or passion. Vacations alone aren't a cure-all. Stress and burnout are different beasts. Burnout is not exclusive to high-stress jobs. Burnout won't magically disappear on its own because you're working too much, and quitting your job isn't always the answer. By understanding these truths, we're already on the path to better managing and preventing burnout in your life. But our journey doesn't end here. In our next video, we'll be tackling 7 more myths about dealing with burnout. Trust me, these insights are game changers too, that you don't want to miss. They'll equip you with even more tools to combat burnout effectively. But before you go, I've got something special for you. See that video on your screen right now? It's packed with practical, actionable strategies to help you overcome burnout starting today. Remember, understanding burnout is just the first step. Taking action is where the real change happens. So don't wait. Watch that video because you matter and avoiding burnout is preventable. Thanks for watching. I'll see you online soon.